So here we are, and well, I don't even know how I want to intro this. How do I intro this?
Just be like, I'll say it. Hey, so we went through the whole hour and realized I didn't even say what I do. So this is gonna be awkwardly cropped into the beginning, and you're gonna be like, oh, cool, that's what he does. So I'll intro myself. So yeah, I'm Cory McKane, CEO and founder of WeStrive. So we are a CRM tool, aka a client management tool and marketplace for the personal training industry. So basically, we help trainers manage their clients, build programs, track macros, whatever they need to do on the back end with their clients. And then on the front end, we take all those programs they built with their clients and you can actually sell them on our in-app marketplace. So help you with sales and growing on the back end, help you with really scaling your business on the front end.
And he's got a lot of awesome things cooking up.
Awesome things cooking up.
And I'm excited to get into the 5-year journey.
Boom, can't wait.
Welcome to the Talking Shop podcast, where I'm here to share stories, lessons, and experiences in sports performance and professional development. I'm joined today by Cory McKane, who is the founder of WeStrive app. How are you doing today?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get something a little bit different for my podcast and the listener. Something a little bit more businessy, but still in this sports performance coaching world that we all live in. So how Cory and I know each other, he actually reached out to me through social media because one of my posts, how I had stuff kind of all formatted in Excel, he made it seem like I was way smarter than I am. Just, it was a simple Excel thing, but it started this awesome conversation on him wanting to expand his current app and format from a little bit more personal training stuff into S&C and coaching. So we had 2 Zoom calls just to get all of our thoughts out on how I feel an app and something like your app can fit into this space. And it was an awesome kind of back and forth. You're an entrepreneur, which I always have a little interest in, kind of businessy and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to go through the WeStrive journey and the story and how you've got to today. So that's how we know each other. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's start from the beginning.
Boom. Well, actually, ironically, from the beginning, I have my shirt. If people are this way right there. So we actually started as Perfect. So you can't see it, but there's a giant FIT. So it started off as PERFICT. So Perfect. And we actually changed the name about two and a half years ago. So it started off as that, but yeah, I'm Cory McKane from Wenatchee, Washington. And yeah, basically I was living in Spokane, Washington, east side of the state, going to Eastern Washington University. But I'll take it back a little bit. When I was in high school, like around 10th grade or 11th grade, we had a project for a fitness specialist class, and I went like really into it. Everyone else kind of made like a little diagram, and I went and made like a website, which wasn't really a thing back in like 2009 ish. You didn't really make websites. I mean, now you can just build them wherever you want, but yeah, essentially I was like, it's kind of weird that you have to Google workouts. Like, why wouldn't there be a marketplace where you can just go on and find a workout, and you can go, I want to do bodybuilding 3 days a week, 45 minutes a day, and I'm an advanced lifter. Boom, here's my program. I just thought it was crazy. So I built this really crappy website, and it just said like, hey, like, are you sick of Googling workouts or whatever? And then I totally forgot about it. And then fast forward to my senior year of college, I was in a night class. I came home, and then my roommates were like drawing on the whiteboard, and they were just like, oh, we should make an app. And I was like, and it's crazy to say that because it's been 5 years since that happened. And so like now I'm here on this podcast, and I have like investors, and we have like monthly revenue, and people are paying me for my software. It's like, it's insane. Like I have a team in Ukraine, and like we'll get into all that stuff, but it's just really weird that that's literally how it started. And that's why I'm here, because of that. Because I had my backpack on, and they were like, let's do this. And I was like, yeah. And I went in my room, and I was going to play video games, and I was like, okay, I'll talk with them, whatever. And so it's funny, if I had just play video games, I would never have started this. But they were talking about, let's make like whatever app. Then someone was like, let's make a fitness app, and I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. We started like drawing on the board, and the joke was that my roommate was gonna code it because he was in a computer science degree at that time and stuff. And so like 2 of the roommates ended up kind of bouncing, and then I was like, no, let's actually do this. We'll make it a marketplace. And then a really good buddy of mine was like a big, marketing guy for this big brand. And so we sat down with him a few days later, him and my other roommate. And essentially I was like, yeah, I want to make this fitness app, and here's my ideas. And I can send you the screenshots if you want to add them to the podcast. But actually I could share my screen. Are they seeing the video?
Yeah, this will be on YouTube.
Oh, awesome. Here, let me pull it up, man. because I have all my old stuff just for like, comedy sake. And I can pull up the full, oh, this is awesome. Okay.
And
So
for reflecting on the journey as well.
yeah, I'll pull up, I'll share one. There's like 100 screens I could share that are pretty funny, but I'll share this one. So this was this was day one. So basically the original idea, and there's the logo right there, but the original idea was like, it was going to kind of be more of a girly app, and then we'd have like the guy side too, but it was like live fit, love fit, lift fit. And so you had all these categories, and it was like, you have blogs and motivation and stuff like that. And at the time, I thought this looked really good, and I was like so pumped about it. And it's like, obviously, you want to puke in your mouth looking at it. But yeah, I went to the guy and I was like, "Here's all our ideas," and he was basically like, "That sucks, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks." But like, I like the idea of having a marketplace for trainers, and so we were like, "Cool, yeah, so let's run with it." And so, yeah, like my roommate at the time ended up dropping off. I spent a few months just like BSing a website. We drove to Seattle, which was like a 6-hour drive from Spokane. We met with this development team over there, and in my mind, I didn't know anything about startups. I didn't know what angel investors were. I didn't know what VCs were. I didn't know I didn't know how to do a business plan. I didn't know anything. And so I thought this big development team was going to take like 20% equity and build our app for us at no cost. Like, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, they're going to do it. Like, why wouldn't they? We drove all the way over there and they saw those designs that were like made on PowerPoint. And it's like, I mean, I still remember the meeting. It was so embarrassing. Like, in retrospect, at the time I was like, why wouldn't you do this? This is going to be really cool someday. And they were just like, yeah, this is going to cost you like $450,000. And I was like, oh my God. So I had like $20 in my bank account at the time. So yeah, we drove back to Spokane, super depressed. And yeah, from there he kind of dropped off. And then basically I just started like kind of what you're doing today, like with the Excel. Ironically, the goal was to get rid of Excel, but I didn't have a software. So I basically took a Wix website and I reached out to thousands of trainers, and I got a couple hundred on the platform, and I took all of their Excel programs and I put them onto like a purchasing website. So then basically people could like go on and pay like $20 and then get the download. But like the filters were there. Like you could say bodybuilding and then 3 days a week. And I manually made it so that you could find those. And then I actually like pretty much gave up that fall when I launched. I finally launched a website and I only sold like $50 worth of programs. And I was just like so devastated. And I was like, screw this. Like, this is a huge waste of my time. We flew to LA with this shirt back here and we like filmed commercials, and they're really bad, but like whatever. And then about a month and a half or 2 months later, because I've never trained someone before. So I've trained myself, but I've never seen someone's transformation. So I've never had that effect prior to this. And there's this guy in the gym. I can't remember his name at this time, but let's say his name was Alec. And we kind of like bumped into each other, and he's like, "Sup, Cory?" And I was like, "Sup, dude?" Like I didn't know who it was. He's like, "Dude, it's Alec." And I was like, "What are you talking?" Like, he's like, I'm like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I've gained like 20 pounds of muscle." And I was like, "No way, that's crazy." And he goes, "Yeah, I bought one of the programs on your website and I started following it." And I was like, "What?" I was like, really? I thought people bought those as a joke, like just to support me, but he literally bought a program and he followed it and he transformed his body through my really crappy website that I built. And so I was like, "Oh my God, this is like an actual thing I can do." And let me know if I'm going into too much detail, because I'm
so two kind of topics I want to ask about briefly. So when it went from whiteboard to that meeting with the developers, like how did that become more official, like kind of along the way or how did it become action steps?
I mean, for me, and I'll show the next screenshot if we're going to like go on the little journey here. Because basically like then it turned into this, which still looks like but like ironically we have some of these elements that are on this screen, like this calendar. I mean, we have this calendar with the workouts down here. Ironically, we have a journal, we have profile, so like it's just like a very crappy version of it.
March 2015.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Yeah, exactly, it's crazy. So yeah, basically it was just kind of like this. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of started putting things together. As you can tell, these lines aren't touching. This line isn't touching. So I was literally on PowerPoint, like just dragging lines to have them touch. So, I mean, it really, like, it never really turned into like a full project for like at least a couple of years. I was going full time on it, but I had no idea what I was doing. So, I mean, it went from the whiteboard to just me writing stuff down and me literally Googling, how do you do a business plan? And then like I would interview investors, or I'd interview people that have built companies, and I would read like startup books, and I was like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. Like, how do I start this? So I guess that's answered the question, as it just like step by step by step by step. And I was super, super active with it. Like I wouldn't go to parties sometimes. I would like skip out on trips. I was like, no, I can't. I have to work on this app. And like in retrospect, that's a joke because like, you know, I think I got obsessed with I have to work 100 hours a week on it, when in reality, it's like you need to take some time off. You need to chill for a sec, like, you know, live your life, and then this will happen, you know? Yeah.
Pulling
What was your other
Kevin
question?
Durant. I think it
Yeah.
was he like missed prom to go do a shoot around or something. But
You're
so
like,
it was
chill.
kind of just like I have this idea and I have an idea of like what the end is. So it's kind of just like, okay, well, I need more official stuff. And then you look that up and it's like, okay, well, I need a business plan. It's like how to make a business plan. Then that research, okay, well then, so it sounds kind of like each step kind of revealed itself
Yeah.
as you
No,
went.
and you kind of just figure out what you need. I mean, so like, and you're always updating things. So like, for example, in the startup world, you have these things called pitch decks. And so they're basically like advanced PowerPoints pretty much. And I didn't know what a pitch deck was, but like our first pitch deck was terrible, and it would look like just trash. But from my perspective, it looked really great. And so you kind of like build that pitch deck, and then over time you keep upgrading and that's kind of how it works. Like your business plan is the same thing. Your app designs, like our first app looked pretty good compared to a lot of the apps out there. But compared to our current app, it looks like trash. And then our new update coming out in 2 months is going to destroy our current app. So it's like you kind of get these base figures and base designs and concepts and plans in your head, and then you just essentially just keep improving on them whenever you notice a gap, whenever you learn something new, just constantly innovating.
And that's funny you mentioned that, because just my own podcast, my own training, and actually the podcast I just recorded, this will be TSP 76. So on TSP
Nice.
75, I made a comment and it kind of came up in conversation when you kind of like face palm, and it's like
Yeah,
it's looking back and then you face palm. And it's the thing in coaching, like we always say, if you don't look back 5 years from now and think like, why did I ever write a program like that? Like you're not
exactly.
growing, progressing. And like,
Yeah.
I forgot when I started going on YouTube, TSP 75, and I redid my logo recently, just like in PowerPoint. I just redid it. But at first it was in
Yeah.
Word. It was in Word. It's just like I made a black rectangle, and then I made
Yep.
like stick figures out of Microsoft, and then I like cropped it down in
Yeah.
a
You
square. It
just
was so bad.
combine the
I'm
sticks.
like,
Yep.
why did
Yeah.
I ever do that? But
Exactly.
if you know, like, or if you believe, with the information I had at that moment in time, I believe that was the best decision. That, because there's always regret and whatnot, but it's like if you look back and you made a bad decision, then that's something different. But like looking back, just you commenting like, oh, that was trash. Well, at the moment you thought it was amazing. That was the best you could do at that moment. So it's like reflecting to appreciate, but also like not to kick yourself too hard. I'm not saying that you are, but like I know I did. I'm like, how did I ever do that? But at that point in time, I believed it was the best.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. I mean, like I've gotten really good at graphic design over the years not because I'm a natural artist, but because I've literally designed thousands of app screens to this point. So I can take an app and go like, oh, this button should be here, this needs to be here, and like not only from my experience, but also from working with some amazing graphic designers. Like we're partnered up with this team in Ukraine called Startup Soft now for the last couple of years, and they have some absolutely incredible graphic designers, and so I pretty much like have just kind of copied their skills and their ideas over the years, and then I apply that to what I do. So like I built our website, I do all the early stage app designs, and then I basically give them to them to kind of, I like to say, like make an adult drawing of it pretty much. But yeah, man, like everything changes. So it's like, at the time I thought my designs look really good, and I'm definitely not embarrassed of them. I think it's cool to see like how far the platforms come, and like it's really crazy, like all the experiences I've had over the past 5 years, and I'll explain why it took so long in a sec. But I mean, just the people that I've met. I mean, I created a group called Entrepreneurs of LA prior to COVID, where we were having like 100 people per event, like show up to these amazing venues and across Los Angeles, and I was starting to get paid for my events, and it's like all these people that I would have never met. And I have a podcast myself where I interview, like, it's more like entrepreneur tech focused, but I've done like 80 episodes, and it's like, I would have never met any of these people. I would never have tons of friends in Ukraine. Like, it's just random stuff that had I just gotten my accounting degree and stayed in my hometown, it just wouldn't even be possible. So it's really cool for sure.
And it's because you just went and did, and you just like
Yeah.
figured out. And like the best I got at Excel was when I had to, because my boss left and the beach volleyball season started in a month, you know?
Yeah,
And it's just
exactly.
like,
Start Googling.
it's Google, Monster, and a lot of time and a
Yeah,
goal.
there you
Like
go.
that's the
Right.
formula for success.
I should rename the podcast. There
Yeah.
you go.
So not to say that like, oh, rah motivational, you just go and do it and it'll all be perfect. But like, that's, you can think about, oh, I want to go get across the room. Well, until you take a step, like, you're not going to do
Exactly.
anything.
Just get started, man.
You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, it's the same thing with weight loss, like I've interviewed some people on my podcast that lost like 300 pounds, and they just like started walking, they just started walking, and at that weight, it's actually pretty easy to lose weight if you just do something. And that's what people like that do. They just start walking. And same thing with startups. It's like if you're building a program for a strength coach or trying to figure out Excel, it's like you put that first number into that spreadsheet, you put that first Google search in, and all of a sudden you're 1% closer to where you're at. So yeah, absolutely.
And then like, it's the learning curve of, well, you'll know where to go as you get more knowledge in this learning curve. And then it'll kind of like reveal, kind of like we talked about earlier. So going back to your story, the second kind of question I had, which led us to the guy saying that he bought your program and it worked. So that idea of just hitting up a ton of people, and like thinking outside the box, and obviously being an entrepreneur and in the startup world, like there isn't even a box. Like, it can be whatever you want. And that's something that I've been wrestling with. I just graduated with my master's, and like,
congrats.
Thank you. And yeah, go frogs.
Yeah, go frogs.
And I crush boxes. Like, you give me project guidelines, study guidelines, like, game over. But now, for the first point in time, like, I can really do whatever I want.
You don't have like a checklist. You're
yeah,
still like
I can literally make it, like whatever I want it to be. And my mentor has been really fundamental for me starting to think outside the box, and just like different things I can do to maximize now to help me get to where I want to go, which of course you need an end goal. Like, you can have all the gas in the world, but if you don't know where to drive your car, then like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So starting with that, like, first I need a bunch of people, go hit them up. I have this website. Was that something of your own doing, or was that one of your interviews when you're calling people? Did you get that idea from YouTube, or where did that idea come from?
It was just me. So and fast forward to now, like, we're doing about 1,000 a month in MRR, and it's starting to grow each month. And we don't have MRR means monthly recurring revenue. So it's like just residual income, basically. So like, we have enough trainers signed up that we're making about 1,000 a month. And then we'll have more next month, and then more after that kind of stuff. But we haven't spent a dime on paid advertising. So like, everything I've always done has always been just like natural, like, go hard manual outreach. And so like, once we raise our funding round this winter, we'll finally have like a budget. So it's like, it's going to be weird to, like, people are just going to be coming to our website that I didn't have to manually go to. So, that's kind of how it started. Is I was just kind of like, okay, well, I can't build an app. And so if I built a website and I took their programs, whether they're in PDF or Excel, I could sell them for them. And that's kind of what it was. So, I had already had experience on LinkedIn. So I'd basically just DM trainers, and I would say, hey, it's Cory, with Perfect. I was just wondering if you're a personal trainer. And they would respond, yes or no. And then I would basically go through like what I'm trying to create. And like, in retrospect, same thing with the designs. Like, it looks really funny to see what I would say. Like, oh, we're the best. Like, are you sick of Googling Google, or are you sick of selling your programs on Google? I don't even know what I'd say, but it was just really stupid. And so, it was a really crazy time. And I thought I literally remember because I have my accounting degree. So I made our like full, our full projections for the year. And I was like, if we just sell this many programs, we'll make $1 million. And we were like freaking out. And it was like, just so crazy to think about that. But yeah, that's kind of how everything got started.
So then now going back to kind of the story. So then you bumped into this one guy, and he was like, yo, I got your program. Then where did it go from there?
So from there, I was seeing this girl in Spokane, and her roommate I grew up with. And so I was on my computer, like dinking around with the Excel documents, and my roommate or her roommate worked at a like this media startup in Spokane. And so she's like, oh, she's just like, that looks terrible. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, that looks really bad. Like we literally like run a platform where, like, you know, we have the developers, and they're like a media company. So they do a lot of photography and videos and all that stuff. She's like, we could definitely help you out. And I was like, okay. So I partnered up with them, and there's so many mini stories within that. Like, we did a photo shoot one time, and like, love you, Keelan, but there was like a big miscommunication on her part. I think I kind of messed up too, but basically, like, I think I paid them 10 grand for the photo shoot. I don't know where the 10 grand came from. I really can't tell you. And like, in retrospect, I'm like, where did I get $10,000 from at this point? But I paid them 10 grand, and the photo shoot should have cost like 30 grand. Cause basically I paid them the 10 grand, and the guy that ran the company showed up for the photo shoot, and he thought they were doing like 20 photos. And they ended up shooting, like, at the end of the photo shoot, he was like, I need a beer. And he just left and went and got a beer at the local brewery because he was so exhausted. Because basically what happened was, I wanted to get all the content for our platform, because we provided all the photos. Because this is post Excel. Now we're getting ready for an actual website. And so, yeah, he ended up taking like 560 exercise photos. So like, but I had it like this. Like, I'm so good at photo shoots. I had 20 models show up at 30-minute increments, and I had like the dumbbells were doing this time slot. We're doing physio ball here. We're doing stability ball crap here, whatever. And so yeah, but he was just exhausted, and so he thought they were getting like 30 or 40 grand from this photo shoot, and then they only got 10 grand. And they were like, well, you know, that was supposed to be way more. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, because I gave you $10,000. So like, to me, $10,000 gets me 20 billion photos. Like, that's not like, I don't know how much photos cost. So the stuff like that happened. Anyways, they ended up having, included in that 10 grand, they built me a website, and it was like this little website where you could like drag and drop like workout photos and that kind of stuff. And I was like so pumped for it. And then it launched, and it was just kind of like, okay, this is kind of stupid actually. So then in 2016, I did a Kickstarter. A buddy of mine ended up putting 15K into it. Besides that, we didn't really raise a lot of money. And then my best friend and his mom put in 5K each. And so we had about like 30, 40K-ish at the end of it. And then so we hired these developers from this media company. And it was just like the biggest nightmare. Like, no offense to them. Like, I should have known that, like, I can't build this giant app with a couple small, like, guys that are just like from my hometown pretty much. So yeah, like, one of the guys was a web guy, and they ended up overcharging me for like little tiny things that, like, my website was literally this like landing page with a video, and I paid like 2 grand for it or something like that. And then they built the website, which I can build in 20 seconds on Wix right now. But and then the app itself, we had this full plan for the app, and then like it was supposed to launch in August, and I hit up the developer in August, and this is kind of when I started to learn that developers are terrible at giving you like time windows, and in their defense, it's really hard to code, like, in general. So we're supposed to launch in August, and yeah, basically I went to go download the app in August, and I couldn't even log in. Once I finally got in, it was just like text was all over the place, and like this page wouldn't work, and I was like, this is terrible. So we didn't even end up launching until that next January. So I told all my investors we were launching, all my trainers we were launching, and it was just like 6 months later we launched. But the worst part is that kind of back to me doing a lot of manual work. So basically at the time, we didn't have it so that trainers could add their own programs. It was just the marketplace for fitness plans. There's no like client management, nothing like that. And so I lost 6 months of my life out of this 5-year journey because basically there was like 300 programs that I had gathered from trainers around the world, and I would have to manually add them. So like, you know, day one, dumbbell push press. Okay. I had dumbbell push press, and then I had an image for dumbbell push press, and I would have to type in dumbbell push press and then add the image to match up with the first one. And I had to do that for the whole program. There was no copying days, no copying weeks. I had to just manually do it for like 300 programs, right? So it took me, I worked 16 hours a day, like, you know, 7 a.m. till, you know, 1 or 2 in the morning, whatever, just doing this. And so about a month or a month and a half of just literally just typing in freaking programs. I get done, and then they're like, for some reason the app isn't working. Like, you know, it's not bringing the programs across. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we think we coded it wrong, so you're gonna have to restart. And I was just like, are you okay? Like I just wasted 2 months of my life. Like, you guys should be paying me at this point. And so I did it again. So I did it again. I had all the programs and I re-entered every single program into the process. Another month and a half of 16 hours a day. Obviously not making any money at this point in any way. And I get done. And then again, they're like, it's just not working. Like, I don't know why it's not working. We have to do it again. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is insane. And so we finally, I literally do it again. Another month and a half of 16 hours a day, retyping dumbbell push press. Okay, 3 sets, 12, blah, blah, blah. The whole program for 300 trainers. And it gets done. They're like, it's not working again. And I'm like, look, guys.
The third time?
Third time. I'm like, you guys are doing something wrong. There's something that you did wrong with the code. And I was like, I can't read code, but like, can I just see the code? Because I feel like I'm a creative person. I'll figure out, because you guys are screwing up. I'm not doing anything wrong. And he's like, I didn't do anything wrong, blah, blah. And I was like, just give me the code. Like, I'm going to figure it out. And what I realized is that around program 54, the program it would put output correctly into the, I can't remember the terms anymore, but it would output correctly into the app. And then around like program 60, it wouldn't output to the app. So I was like, you guys have a cap somewhere in your code. I can't read code. It's like another language to me, where I'm like, you did something wrong in this code that makes it so that I can't get to that 60th program. And sure enough, we went through the code again, and there was some line they added that, like, I think it capped the number of images, or it capped the number of programs, or it capped something. We deleted that one line and it worked, and the whole thing worked. So I wasted like 4 months of 16 hours a day because of one extra line of code in there. And then all this other crap, there's just like a biggest waste of my life. Like, all this other crap happened. We finally launched in January. Apple screwed us over, blah, blah, blah. And then basically, like, the developer had taken so long to launch it. He was like, look, I'm going back to college. Like, I don't have time to build the Android apps. We only had iOS. And a couple hundred downloads, and no one cares. So that was our first launch. So that's just part one of my show of start to this. So
we'll
take a pause there.
Yeah. First kind of question. And if this is too personal, then
no, I don't care.
I'm interested in, like, how are you paying rent and insurance and like
waiting tables, baby.
And like, so this is probably just like my mind thinking in a box. It's like, oh, well, you wake up and you go to X job, and then you have X insurance, and then you get X paycheck. Like, how did you, besides the actual work, like, what was living life like at that point?
So the in like 2016 ish, I was a assistant manager at Rite Aid for like 6 months. So I didn't get a lot of work done then. I literally worked like 16 hours on like the days I had off. But I worked like, I think Tuesday through Saturday from like 8 a.m. until 8:30 at night. So I really couldn't get a lot of work done. And then the 3 days I had off, I would go out and party, but then I would work before the party and then after the party. And then like, that's pretty much it. And then like Mondays, I would literally just work the entire day on the app. So, and then after that, I got a waiting tables job. And so I would wait tables on a couple of days a week, but then the rest of the time I was literally just sitting in my room, like working on the app pretty much. Like, that's all I did. I put an insane amount of work into this app. It's like ridiculous. I mean, at one point in 2017, because it didn't launch till 2017, that first app. At one point in 2017, I had an investor for $250,000, and he was going to put money in. We had the contracts ready to go. And I flew down to LA for a week to meet with him, and he straight up ghosted me. Like, didn't show up. I haven't talked to him since. Like, I was there. I was like, hey man, where you at? He said that something happened to his mother or something like that in Germany, but I saw his Instagram story and he was just like working out normally and like, going on jogs and stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you seem very fine. And why didn't you tell me that you couldn't be here? Like, I've been sitting here in LA waiting for you. So thankfully he didn't invest, because he was going to get a quarter of our company, and that would have ruined our entire trajectory. And I think like so many things happen that are like super shitty, like just really unfortunate events at the time. But they were like in retrospect were either amazing, or it was just kind of stuff that I was like, learn my lesson. You know what I mean? Like, I won't do that again. So that was definitely one of those, but yeah, basically I was just waiting tables the whole time. And like, honestly, I've had probably on average like $400 in my bank account for the last like 4 years. Like, I constantly, because anytime I get a surplus of income, I put it into the app. So it's like, do I want to go on vacation, or do I want an extra 30 hours of development? And it's like, I'd rather have 30 hours of development. So I basically just live my life. I have a great time. But then I spend, most of my days, like today I woke up, had a couple meetings, obviously on this podcast, and I've just basically been contacting trainers and like, customer service, that kind of stuff all day. So that's kind of what I was doing. I don't know, just working on the app. Yeah.
So I like how you said about all these things that played out, didn't play out, and kind of going back to like making the best decision that the information you had to make. It's like you can only facepalm because of what you learned from that moment.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's cool that you're not bitter about it, man. I'm bitter just hearing that story.
I mean, I'm bitter about it. Don't get me wrong, man. Like, cause I hate saying that I've been on this journey for 5 years, because there's so many things that I'm like, if I had just skipped that entire part, but at the same time, it's like, if I had skipped that 2 years journey, what would have happened if I'd raised 250,000 is we would have, made X amount of money, and we would have put a lot of money into ads. We would have had the wrong business model, blah, 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 blah. And it would have ended up just best case scenario being like a couple $1 million company, like absolute ceiling, couple $1 million company, and probably just tanking at some point. Cause there's been so many fitness apps that have tanked, and it took us so long to figure out what we want to do. And now we're at a position where I have a lot of equity available. Our monthly revenue is growing, and we know exactly what we want to do over the next 1 to 2 years. And so I'm just like, this is a perfect scenario that we're in right now. And had it not been for all the mistakes and all the time it took me to get to this point, then I would already have failed, or I would have exited for like a very small amount of money. So it really sucks, and I regret it in one way, but in the same breath, I'm like, you know what, this is actually probably a good thing for me, for sure.
And so part of just my like entrepreneur business mind, like what I like consuming. So
Mm-hmm.
Driveline Baseball, I'll send you the podcast if you want. It's like a 4-hour podcast. I've listened to it 4 times. The
Okay.
Driveline Baseball founder, he basically said like, if he had started his company like 2 years earlier or 2 years later, like they would have failed.
Yeah.
It was at that point in time that he got a no from the Tampa Bay Rays that like he wanted that job, and he didn't get it. And then he did this business, and he told his wife, he was like, give me 1 year, and if I don't make X amount of money, like I'll go back to my poor job that I hate doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a little side tangent that like there is so much that happens kind of beyond your control. And like
Mm-hmm.
there are those facepalm moments, but it's like I need that to get to the point, to this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not like the whole like rah positive, like I'm not trying to make it into that, but like that's just something like there's so much, just like how I've gotten to now. Like I almost left TCU after a month, first month of
Yeah.
my master's. I'm like, data's boring, I hate research. And now like that's one of my main selling points is like my
You
sports
understand all
scientist mind.
data. Yeah.
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 So it's just cool to hear that. So then last thing before we get back to the story and
Mm-hmm.
where we left off was the first launch. But these action steps, like because I'm super predicated on action. I end all my
Mm-hmm.
regular podcasts on what are 1 to 3 action steps that the listeners can do to get better. So like just deciding what to do on a daily basis,
Yeah.
daily, weekly, monthly, like like with no box
Yeah.
and like a very young app. Like how do you figure out what to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis?
I mean, sometimes I still don't know what to do at this point. Like, even though we have like a team and revenue, like we're planning on bringing on this girl I know for operations probably. And I'm still like, ugh, I'm not sure what I want her to do. And so and then even today, like I had a couple of trainers cancel, because again, I'm done with Fridays. I don't know why I had both my morning trainer calls cancel. I'm just like, they moved to Monday. I'm just like so annoyed by it, but,
I'll never cancel on you.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. But I mean, yeah, honestly, at that point, it was just kind of like, again, just manual work, just, wake up in the morning. Okay, we need to get programs done. Got it. I want to start selling shirts. Okay, let's figure out like a design for the shirts. Who's going to be, providing the platform for that? Okay, after the app launches, like I need to find a new development team. I need to figure my life out. I need to work on sales. I need to contact more trainers. Like, it's just like, I just like a million things at once, and it kind of just like prioritizing what I think is more important. Like, for example, today, I want to start working on the website, but there's also X amount of trainers that I want to talk to and X amount of trainers that I want to get a hold of. I've got like, just looking at my board right now, I've got like business partnerships, agreements that I want to kind of like work on closing. I need to reach out to more personal trainer business coaches. It's like, I've literally got like 1,000 things that I need to do, and kind of just like figuring out, what makes sense to kind of move forward with each day. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we're back to the first launch.
Boom, boom. First launch. Yeah. So 2017, that launch, that was terrible. And then that summer, then I got screwed over again. This is another great story. So then that summer I was like, I'm gonna move to LA. And I was like, cool. So Before I moved to LA, we did an Indiegogo campaign, which is basically Kickstarter, and I got absolutely screwed over. Hold on, let me pull up their name so I make sure that I'm not like messing with anyone else. One sec. Business documents.
And is all this before or after the Ukraine team?
This is right before the Ukraine. So the Ukraine's coming right up. I just want to make sure that these guys, so they're called Funded Today. Never work with these people. I have screenshots to prove it. So basically what happened was I created this awesome Indiegogo commercial. It's like this really, it's like, you ever seen the, oh my God, the Dollar Shave Club commercial where he's like walking around? I created that basically with like a low budget, but it was actually funny. I got like 6,000 views on Facebook and I didn't even promote it. Like it got shared by hundreds of people. So that was great. We did this Indiegogo campaign. We're trying to raise more money for a relaunch, as we wanted to relaunch the marketplace with actual like a development team. And so I paid Funded Today like $4,000 or something like that. And they were like, yeah, we're going to get you these press releases. We're going to do this and this and this and this and this. And I got literally nothing out of it. And basically they were like, oh, well, we posted your press release to this website. It's an $1,800 value. And I started looking into they're like, there's 10 links that you're featured at. And it was all BS links. It was like some website that they literally created themselves that gets 0 viewers. It was some website that was like a link of a link of a link of a link. And then it was like, basically they're all total crap. Like no one would ever go to this website. Like these are just junk URLs. And I called them out on it and they tried to like get out of it. And then they were going to do X amount of Facebook ads. And then I got like 1 view. And I'm like, how did you do that terrible? And like 2,000 worth of Facebook ads that you got like 1 person on my campaign page. So anyways, totally screwed over. That was a terrible experience. So that was literally the week I moved to LA is I raised 7,000 on Indiegogo, but I spent I raised like 4,500. I spent so much on the Funded Today that I ended up losing like $300 total on the campaign. So I literally negative amount right there. In that same breath, I had just gotten an investor for 10K, but then I bought back shares from some early investors. I wanted more equity. So then I basically like after everything that happened, I had like $0 net. And so I moved to LA, got hired at a restaurant, and they had me training for 6 weeks, 1 day a week, because it was so slow. And so I made like $100 a week. And I basically almost had to move home in LA after like a month and a half of being there. Thankfully, my mom sold my car back in Washington. I got like a $5,000 out of that. So that's the only way I survived LA is because my mom is an amazing salesperson.
What was the cause or driver moving out to LA?
Well, I was living in Spokane, Washington, where at some point in January after the app launched, the first app, I did like a pitch to the angel investors there. And like, I realized it was just a bunch of real estate agents basically that weren't really angel investors. And like the one kid I met, like he raised 250,000 from them, but like his dad ran the thing. So I was like, okay, this is not a real, like when I got to LA, there was like tons of angel groups and VCs everywhere. It was like, okay, this is got it. Maybe it's changed now, but at the time I was like, I can't do this. Like, so yeah, I wanted to be in more of a fitness area. I wanted to be like, summer year round. I wanted to have more entrepreneurial like vibes around me and people that were like super passionate for what they were doing. I love Spokane. I love everyone there, but like it just it wasn't ready for startups, and so I had to go somewhere that was. And so, yeah, once I got there, it was great. Met a lot of really cool people, and then conveniently got partnered up with my Ukrainian team at that point. Just kind of a random. I applied to their accelerator, but they were like, "We don't have an accelerator, but we do this," and I was like, "That's actually what I would like." Basically, at the time, they did part equity, part payment, so I would pay them like, let's say I gave them 10,000. But it normally costs 20,000. So then I would give them an additional like 1% equity to replace that kind of like the terrible example, but like that's how it works pretty much. So yeah, that was kind of how we partnered up. Have been with them for 3 years now. That was in August 3 years ago. So they're absolutely incredible. We kind of just got to work at that point. Just totally rebranded the whole app, get ready for everything. And so that was September of 2017. And then fast forward to June of 2018, we finally relaunched the app, the marketplace. So I was so excited for it. I had only been in LA for a year, but I got about 125 people to show up to our launch party. We rented out a rooftop in Santa Monica. It was just beautiful. Like we had I spent like $600 at Costco on alcohol. We had just bottles and bottles, free drinks all night for everyone. We had a DJ. Like it was just so cool. But another example of my story. So basically, the day of the launch, my app just gets pulled off of iOS, off of App Store. And I was like, okay. So I'm like freaking out because I have all these people showing up. I had some influence, like not like giant influencers, but like some pretty big fitness influencers showing up and everything to post about it. And so I call Apple and they're like, yeah, you need to use our payment processing system. You can't use your own. Like, we're pulling you off the App Store. And I was like, well, that's weird because it's June or May at this time. And I've submitted my app with my payment processing system for the last 3 months, and you've approved every single one. And because we knew that there was maybe an issue with that. It's the same reason that Fortnite, actually, if you're familiar with Epic Games and Fortnite, they just got pulled off the App Store because of the same thing. But I knew there was some controversy with the payments, so I submitted it 3 times, approved, and they were like, yeah, sorry, like the guy that approved that shouldn't have done it, and then just hung up on me. And I was just like, okay. So I was obviously devastated. There's no way to be optimistic about that. We had the launch party, everyone showed up, and they had to just write their name and email down. Like, you can download the app in a few weeks when we have it. And then we were like, who has an Android here? And out of 125 people, like 8 people had an Android. And so, yeah, it was a really fun night. We had a great time, but it was just such a devastating hit. And so we had to spend our entire marketing budget over the next 2 or 3 weeks, pretty much investing into rebuilding the payment processing system of the iOS app. So now I had no marketing budget, no launch party, no influencers. And then we finally launched, and it was like earlier mid-July. So it's just people are graduating and it's summer, and people don't work out in the summer. So it just like everything was just terrible. Like, it was just, so we sold like 1,200 worth of programs, which was cool, but like that was it. There was nothing else. And so I was obviously devastated, a huge waste of my life. And I realized that, also had realized at the time, that the trainers didn't even really want what we launched. Like, it's a cool extra feature, but like, you can't marketplace. Like, you put your program up, and then what? Like, now you need to go run your business. This is just a marketplace. Like, it'd be like eBay is cool, but you can't, like, you need to have a store if you want to sell stuff. You can't just like put stuff on eBay and then like, I don't, that's a terrible rant actually, but I don't know. It was, so basically at that point we had to go, okay, we need to figure something else out. So many trainers were complaining about the current CRM platforms that are out there to this day. And so we were like, screw it. We're just like a client relationships management. So like, like what we do now, like where you manage clients, build programs, all that stuff. So we were like, screw it. We're just going to build a CRM tool for trainers, and then we'll combine it with the marketplace. So that's what we got to work on in 2018. That's that summer. So it took like a year and a half actually, which is just crazy to think about. But we just had such little funding, and we're competing with the Trainerizes and TrueCoaches of the world who have raised millions of dollars. And it feels cool to say, like, we have. Like, I had a trainer cancel Trainerize and switch to us yesterday. I had TrueCoach switch all the time. Like, so it's just cool to say that, like, we've had basically no funding, and people are literally canceling multi-million-dollar funded platforms to switch to us. So thankfully with our next update, we're really confident in, so it'll happen a lot more. But yeah, basically I spent from 2018 just waiting tables, Ubering, whatever I could do to make money, all the way. We thought we were going to launch in early 2019, but like, we just had so many features we needed to add, because like trainers, they're used to a high tier of, like, you have to have landing page, program management, program builders, client tools, like all this crap. So we had to put more and more stuff into it. So we finally launched this past December. We launched. And so that's kind of where, well, there's a lot more that's happened since then. So we can put a pause here for now, but about a year and a half worth of development until we actually finally got the thing launched off the ground. So yeah.
And that's just the power of a good product, and just like the power of word of mouth, and people get so, myself included, oh, how do I make my Insta look like this? And I have this super cool idea for whatever ads and like all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And how do I did it out? But it's like, at that, like, let's say you get their attention and your product is garbage.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's take care of, like, what is the point of marketing? To get them to your product, Mm-hmm. So that's just a testament to like the quality of your app. And then the one question that I want to ask on that chunk of the story, and that was actually one of the first questions I asked you before we started talking about why you originally hit me up, mm-hmm. was like the coding and the programming, because that's something I have an interest in, not like for websites and apps, but mm-hmm. just different stuff. So from what's the name of the Ukraine company?
Startup Soft.
So when you first stumbled upon the name Startup Soft to like agreeing to a contract, what was that? Because I would assume at this point in time, like you had apprehension about everything that sounds good, relative to your
Oh
sort of
yeah.
thing. So
And not
like,
only that, but everyone hates foreign developers too. So I keep going, but that's just another
yeah.
thing.
So
Yeah.
so like, what was that process like of the initial contact, like all of
Mhm.
the litmus tests you kind of gave them, to
Mhm.
you eventually just saying, screw it, like I'm gonna go for it.
Well, it's funny you say that because I to this day, like, if there's a well-funded startup that I meet, I try and push them to Startup Soft just because like everyone always has terrible stories with like overseas developers, like terrible stories. And I really like, I can't say anything like bad about Startup Soft. Like they saved my life. Like they saved my company. Like it was just like the greatest experience of all time from the get-go, and it still is. I mean, we've had bumps, so we've had like glitches and people left, people come back, but it's like, so it's not perfect. But like as far as overseas development goes, or as far as US development goes, I really uh it was perfect from the get-go. Like it just started off and they were like, tell you what, we'll do like a free month of development for you, and then if you like it, this will be the rates going forward. And I was like, cool. First month went great. They came on I basically gave them like a 130-page document for my first marketplace, or that I was relaunching in 2017. And I was like, this is what I want to build. And they basically took that and they redid all the designs, and it just came out beautiful. And they started working on the development. It was just a great experience. Like they did a really wonderful job. And from there, I got really close with the team. I got close with the brothers that own it. So Alex and Andrew, Vasilik. So we talk like every other day now. So they're great people. I'm planning on making a Ukraine trip out here really soon once we, things open back up. But yeah, it was just an incredible experience from the get go. They did a really great job of like their project managers. Having a project manager is really key because I'm currently managing the company. And so it's really hard for me to like, manage the coders too. So when you have a project manager that can handle, because I have developers, designers, and project manager over on that team. So at one point we also had a quality assurance person too. So the project manager would kind of handle all of that for me, and then I would only work with her. So that was very key. That really allowed me to kind of like focus on the rest of the business, and then they could kind of do their thing. But yeah, to answer your question, it was just like, we had that 1 month test, and it was just kind of like amazing from there. And like over the years, like I mentioned, I've always been really low on funding because, this is like a hundreds of thousands of dollar project at this point. So, I've always, like, it's like, okay, I owe 5K this month. I owe 5K this month, 10K this month. And it's like, I would never have it. And they would always like, give me a little window. And there's times where I'm like, I don't know where I found the money. Like, I really don't. Like I would be like, oh, I owe 6K by Friday, and I currently have like $1,500 or like $800. And I would just always find the money somehow. Like from an investor would give it to me, or like, I really don't know how to explain it. Like it would just happen. And so that's happened month after month after month for like 3 years. Like I can't tell you, right now we have like 20K in the bank account, and it's we put about 5K to 10K a month into development. So this is the first month in like 2 or 3 years that I have 2 or 3 months of runway, and I don't have to figure out money. It's like insane. Like I've had to figure out my personal expenses and the WeStrive expenses every single month. And I never, like, I wouldn't have rent. I wouldn't have the payments. And I would just be like, I'd have to commit to the development, because it's like, if I don't commit to development, then we're just sitting there and no, we're not working on anything. So and my investors would be like, oh, well, you can't, like, if you don't have the money, you can't just commit to it. I'm like, okay, well then we're not going to do anything. Like the apps, why are we having this conversation? Like nothing will happen with the app if I don't commit to it. So I'm just going to commit to it. I'm gonna figure it out. We're just gonna make it work, and it's always worked out, thankfully. And then the months that I couldn't make payments, they'd let me like delay it and like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a really really great relationship with them for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we left off, I think, on the Ukraine team, and then as it was kind of 2018-ish. So we're getting near the end of the hour, even though I'm sure we could talk for I don't even know how much
Do it for
longer. But
days. Yeah.
so wherever we left off, let's go from there.
Yeah. So we left off December 2019. So this is 8 months ago. So yeah, we launched our another example. And again, this is another really shitty thing that happened. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, but a really bad thing that happened to us, but was for a very good reason again. So I go to launch and I'm like, okay, there's this website called Product Hunt, and everyone launches their products on there. It's like you put a product on there and then they can get voted to the number one, and like everyone's freaking out. So it's a worldwide website, which is how the websites works. That's a dumb thing to say, but everyone uses it. It's really cool. And so I was like, cool, we're launching. I got all my friends to get ready to upvote. I texted hundreds of people, all of our trainers. We're going to leave reviews on it. Let's go. And so we go live on Product Hunt. And you have a 24-hour period. First off, on Product Hunt, you can have these things called hunters, these people. And so hunters are like people that are like, they're basically influencers for Product Hunt. Like they do it every day. They're always on there. So like if you have a hunter, then your product looks way better because like, oh, this is official. So I got a hunter and he didn't tell me that he posted the project at 2 a.m. So I woke up at 10 a.m. I was having a good day, worked out, whatever. And you only have 24 hours to promote your product. And he goes, oh yeah, we posted it at 2 a.m. this morning. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why didn't you tell me that? He's like, oh, I don't know. Like that's when I post them. And so I was like, okay, so I'm already 8 hours behind on my 24-hour time clock. And so I get all my friends to upvote it. And we have like I think we had like 300 upvotes or something like that. And I got like 40 comments and all these reviews, and our trainers that love the product were like, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And the website glitched for I've never heard of it happening, but we didn't make the top 10. And not only that, but you literally couldn't search for WeStrive. Like you would type in WeStrive in the company database and you wouldn't see our company. And I was messaging Product Hunt and they were like, oh, well, it's just because like, like the algorithm didn't pick you guys up. And I would look at the top 10. It was like the top 10. The 10th guy was like some guy. It was like, here's my podcast. And it was like one little crappy graphic. And I'm like, you're telling me this guy's podcast is top 10, but my 300 plus upvotes with, I hired a designer to make the screens for me. It was like, I had this intro video. Like, you're telling me that guy has top 10, but I'm not. And so a day back and forth of this, and they're finally like, yeah, that is kind of weird that you can't search for your company. I'm like, yeah, no, that is weird. That's really crazy. Like my lifeline is here. Like I need this. And so they ended up giving me another day because they're like, yeah, we screwed up. Sorry. And I was like, great. So my whole plan is ruined basically. And so what they did was they show you the top 15, but the top 10 are there. And then you have to push see more to see the 11 through 15. And they put us at number 11. And I was like, okay, we can work our way up. And no matter how many upvotes I got, I couldn't get to number 10. So I was like, okay, so now I'm still locked out of being seen on the homepage. I'll never reach number 1. So I basically just gave up. But blessing in disguise, because we ended up like really launching January 1st, and we had so many bugs, like so many bugs. The worst bug we had, which I blame myself for, sometimes I can blame my development team. This was me 100%. So what happened was, because I spent months reviewing our programs, making sure they were good to go in the marketplace. And what happened was, so our trainers, whenever they would add a circuit, there was an error in the coding that would take the circuit, and then if there was 2 rounds in the circuit, it would make 2 full circuits. So it'd be like 2 rounds of this circuit, 2 rounds of the same circuit. If there was 4 rounds in the circuit, it'd be like, you do this circuit 4 times, you do this circuit 4 times, 4 times, 4 times. I don't know how I didn't notice it, because when I was going through the platform, I had to edit the programs for some reason, because we transferred them over from the first database to this one. And so I'd have to go 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 12. It took me like a month and a half to do it. And I was like, why are these programs so long? Like I'm exhausted, like whatever, but I didn't actually follow the program in real life yet because I was so busy working on the app. And one of my buddies texted me like around January 10th. And he's like, my buddy Marcus, he's like, dude, I got my ass kicked, but like, why is this program so damn long? and I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, it took me like an hour and a half to finish this like simple circuit. And I was like, what do you mean? And I went on there and I finally had some time to work out, and I looked on the app and I was like, oh my God. And sure enough, like, Newton's law, whatever that is, like go wrong, will go wrong, whatever that is. Sure enough, I went to every single program, and I'm really quick at diagnosing bugs now because I've done it so many times. I'm like, if this is the case here, it has to be the case on every other program. And sure enough, every program with a circuit had repeat every day for months. And so I was like, oh my God. So yeah, we had to basically like edit every single program and relaunch it because there was like a huge bug when they were transferred over. So yeah, thankfully Product Hunt didn't go well because there were so many bugs on our initial launch that like it would have been a terrible PR nightmare. So it's another example of me getting totally screwed over. Can't explain why. It happens all the time in this journey, but like ends up for some reason kind of working out. So yeah.
Fantastic. So last question. So that was 8 months ago ish. So if you could like briefly chat about 8 months to now.
Oh yeah, I should probably touch on that. It works really well now. Yeah. So
And
around like,
seed.
yeah, and the app sucks. No, so around March, we got our shit together. At that point we were like, you'd sign up and it was like, do you want to be a marketplace trainer or a private trainer? And then it was just terrible. And so now we have it where it's like you sign up and you can add the marketplace, but like we're so focused on the CRM tool now. And basically what I did was I sat down with hundreds of trainers and I was just like, what do you want to see? Kind of like I did with you. I was like, what do you want to see in our platform? Like, do you want us to focus on the landing pages? Do you want more, app focused? Do you want more like program builder focused? Turns out all the above. So basically we spent the last like 6 months just adding feature after feature after feature. Our flow and usability is amazing already. So like we haven't touched that too much. Like the app's just really easy to use. Like that's why we have trainers canceling our competitors and switching over to us, because we're just really easy to use. So like even if they have more features right now, you'd rather have a platform that you actually enjoy and like you're not breaking your computer over to sacrifice for the features. So we've added stuff like, yeah, like I said, landing pages, testimonials. We just added macro tracking, client calendars. And so we've added so many things. It's like ridiculous. And then our next update. So yeah, now we're at a point where trainers love it. We've got like about like 50 trainers paying for it, another 100 something on the trial. So we'll have a lot more by, 2 weeks from now. And then basically I've got hundreds of trainers lined up for our relaunch in about a month and a half, just because they need these certain features. So we're adding group training, teams, our new mobile apps. Absolutely, it's stunning. Like your homepage for your client's going to have a nutrition macros link up, so it'll show all your macros. It'll show your trainer messages right from there. It'll show all your steps for the day. It'll have a body weight tracker. You go to the next tab, it's got a calendar. It's going to show everything you have to do for that day. It's going to show what workouts you have to do. If you want to go on a jog, you can record that right from there, like it's a running app. The next tab is going to be all about your progression tracking and working with your trainer. And the next tab is your profile, like your body weight stats, your records, everything like that. So it's going to be mind blowing. I can't wait. But from January to now, it's like totally different platform. And in 2 weeks, 2 months, it'll be a totally different platform again. So just always innovating, always trying to get more feedback and growing the platform. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm super excited to see and watch kind of your journey and stay up to date. And this is our third video call, so I'm excited for the future.
Boom.
So last question, we'll keep it kind of brief. We'll be right at an hour, so it'll be good.
Boom.
So along this whole journey, because it all went swimmingly, never got screwed over.
No problems.
How many times / what kept you going from just, all right, I have one more week and I'm going to be back in accounting office doing my thing, just 9 to 5, like how many times, and then like what just kept you coming back?
There hasn't been there's been a lot of times where I was like, what am I doing? Like, because you can look at the overall view and go, oh my God, we've been working on this for 5 years. And, back in like, now we're good. Like now we're getting trainers like every single hour. But back in March, I was like, we have like 10 paying trainers. I've been building this for 5 years. This is ridiculous. Like, why am I wasting my life? But then I take a step back and I'm like, well, yeah, I've been building this for 5 years, but like to get all the bugs out of the way, I technically just launched this month. So like I'm on day 1 basically. So then I can take a step back and go, okay, well, I'm technically on like month 5 of this startup journey of this new platform. And our competitors are millions of dollars and years into it, and people are switching to us. And I'm like, so where am I going to be in a year of this journey? Like, cause I have so many plans for this app that our competitors aren't even close to touching. So it's like, there's definitely so many, literally every day, every 24-hour cycle is just me going, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And then having one really good trainer call where they're like, this is going to save me 20 hours a week. I'm so pumped to start this. And then it just flips my attitude. I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm so pumped up. Like, so I mean, I don't know how to answer your question as far as like a numerical, like 5 times, but I'll say there was a ton of times where I was like waiting tables in Venice and getting like $300 in tips in like 4 hours and freaking out and going like, oh, let's get it. And then all that money goes to the app and being like, I could quit the app right now. I could wait tables on this Venice beach and I could just live the best life of all time. Like, I'd be so happy doing this. But then I take a step back and go, okay, well, when I'm, when I'm 80 years old and people are like, oh, what did you do growing up? And I'm like, oh yeah, I had this startup for 4 years and then I gave up because I was, I got tired and, like, what would I say? I just like, I don't, I've always thought of what I would say and it just sounds like, so it doesn't sound like me. So I'm just going to keep going after it. Thankfully we're starting to make money and there's a light at the end of the tunnel and I'm super excited now, but like in my darkest hours, there have been some times where I've been super depressed about it. But just trying to stay optimistic, trying to like look at the end goal and just knowing that like, every little step you take is just, that much closer to your goal. So.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So I will end
Yeah.
on that, and I want to say thank you very much for your time. Obviously, you're a very busy guy with the endless things you got to do. So this is awesome. I appreciate you pulling the curtain back. I will put links to all of your stuff if you send those my way, and and uh and yeah, I'm excited to watch this journey and support you on your way however I can. So thank you very much again.
Thanks, man. We'll have all your updates that you wanted very soon. We're still working on those. So there we go.
That'll be sweet.
The Matt updates. Boom.